Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I'm Dr. Maimuna Akhtar from School of Pharmaceutical Education and Research, Jamia Hamdard. Here we are going to discuss about the module Sample Atomization from paper Atomic Spectroscopy. In this module, a brief of atomic absorption spectroscopy is present. A detailed method of atomization is given to learn about different techniques that are used for atomization of different elements. Techniques that like continuous and discrete method, hydride generation method, cold vapor atomization and glow discharge lamp shall be covered. The advantages on flame over electrothermal shall also be discussed to make students understand the importance of method selection. The temperature obtained by mixing of different fuels and oxidants and the advantage of low and high temperature is also discussed. We already have discussed about atomic absorption spectroscopy, various techniques, instruments, advantage, disadvantages. Here I am briefly brushing about the technique. That atomic absorption spectroscopy is a technique that involves study of absorption of electromagnetic radiations in relationship to the atomic structure. This technique is used to study various elements in sample through their absorption of light. It is relatively simple and reliable technique which uses absorption of radiation by free atoms for determining the content of the different elements. Atomic absorption spectroscopy is a technique that involves study of absorption of electromagnetic radiations in relationship to atomic structure. This technique is used for various elements in sample through their absorption of light. It is relatively simple and reliable technique which uses absorption of radiation by free atoms for determining the content of different elements. It is the oldest instrumental elemental analysis principle, the origin of which goes back to the work of the Bunsen and Kirchhoff in the mid-19th century. In atomic absorption spectrometry, the components of a sample are converted into gaseous state, that is gaseous atom or elementary ions, by suitable heat treatment. The absorption is measured at a selected wavelength which is characteristic to individual atom. The process of converting these samples into vapor is called atomization. And the precision and the accuracy of atomic absorption spectroscopy are critically dependent on atomization step. So therefore, very precise attention is given to the step of atomization. In atomic absorption spectroscopy, the sample is most commonly introduced as a solution. The solution is drawn in through a small tube and taken into the nebulizer where the solution is broken up into a fine mist. It's a kind of aerosol. The fine mist is carried to the atomizer such as flame by carrier gas. Where the mist reaches the flame, the intense heat breaks up the sample into individual atoms. This final process is called atomization. That means breaking of these atoms or molecules into atoms and ions. Types of atomization. The atomization can be of various methods for atomization. Continuous or flame method is one of the very commonly used method or had been a very common method for atomization. Discrete or electric heating furnace method has also been used, which uses current to atomize the molecules or atoms. The hydride generation method is another method which has been used for atomization, and application of the frame method which uses chemical reaction to vaporize the scientific elements. A cold vapor atomization or reduction vaporization method, it uses elements that are easy to evaporate in nature. This is a diagrammatic representation of the process of atomization for continuous atomizers. The solution or sample under test is made nebulized. A desolvation, that is evaporation, is done followed by dry aerosol formation, wherein volatilization takes place and free atoms are produced. The coming to first method, that is flame atomization or continuous atomization. The flame atomization is the most common continuous type of atomization. After being nebulized by gaseous oxidant and mixed with fuel, the sample is carried into a flame where the heat allows atomization to occur. Once the sample reaches the flame, 3 or more steps takes place. One is dissolution, second volatilization, and third is dissociation. First, a molecular aerosol is produced when the solvent evaporates, that is dissolution. Then the aerosol is formed into gaseous molecules, wherein volatilization means. And finally, the molecules dissociate and produce atomic gases, which is dissociation. During this process, cations and electrons can also be formed when the atomic gas is ionized. This is steps involved in flame atomization. This solution of analyte is nebulized and a spray is formed, and then dissolution takes place. A solid or gaseous aerosol is produced, which upon volatilization produces gaseous molecules. And from gaseous molecules, by dissociation, either atoms are produced or excited molecules are produced. From atoms, atomic ions are produced or they get excited ions with a wavelength from which is characteristic to the atom. Fuel and oxidants. So when we say flame, that means we need a fuel, we need an oxidant to generate a flame. Most common oxidants and fuels used to produce flames for atomic absorption spectrometer are presented in table 1. The required temperature range is achieved by using different mixture of fuel and oxidants. The most common oxidant used in flame atomization is oxygen, because dissociation and breaking molecules down to atoms is easier with more heat, which can be achieved by use of oxygen. The flow rate of fuel and oxidant are controlled by aerotometer, a vertically placed tapered tube. Here you can see the type of fuels and oxidants used and their burning temperature and maximum burning velocity. The oxidants can be oxygen, air and nitrous oxide, and fuel used can be natural gas, hydrogen, acetylene, natural gas with air, or you can use hydrogen. The temperature produced by the mixture of oxygen and natural gas can be between 2700 to 2800 degrees centigrade, whereas the highest temperature can be attained by using oxygen and acetylene is 3050 to 3150. Using air and acetylene, we can have a temperature of 2100 to 2400 degrees centigrade. The maximum burning capacity is of oxygen and acetylene again, which is 1100 to 2480, and the least burning capacity is for nitrous oxide and acetylene, which is around 285 centimeter per second. Continuing with fuels and oxidants, with the smallest end placed down, a float which is located inside the tube determines the flow rate. Close control is vital because the flame is very unstable outside of its specific flow rate range. If the flow rate is not greater than the burning velocity indicated, the flame will experience flashback and propagates back into the burner. And if the flow rate is too high, the flame will blow off the burner. When the flow rate and burning velocity are equal, the flame is stable. So usually the flame consists of an excess of fuel to prevent oxides forming with the molecules of the sample. This table shows us a comparison of standard burner and high temperature burners. The gas system in standard burners can be argon hydrogen, air acetylene, air hydrogen, and in case of high temperature burners, acetylene dinitrogen oxide is used. The temperature attained is 2900 degrees centigrade. The tip size in case of standard burner is 0.5 mm to 100 mm, whereas in case of high temperature burners, diameter is slightly less with the length, that is 0.4 millimeter to 50 millimeter. And with the use of standard burners, the elements which can be detected include lead, cadmium, iron, copper, manganese, chromium, calcium, magnesium, zinc. By using high temperature burners, we can detect aluminium, boron, barium, beryllium, helium, etc. So here we can see the flame structure. In order to understand or have effective atomization, the understanding of the flame structure is important. The fuel usually uses acetylene and air is oxidant, which are mixed with a nebulizer mist. The mist is then introduced in the flame. The fuel and oxidant mixture produces a flame with the primary combustion zone, the interzonal region, and the secondary combustion zone. A flame does not have uniform temperature throughout all locations and are not equal in flame to oxidant ratio. The three main zones of the flame, which are primary combustion zones, secondary combustion zone, and the interzonal region, have different temperatures. The interzonal region is the hottest area of the flame and is used for spectroscopic analysis because this area of flame free atoms are more prevalent. It is therefore the region of interest of analytical chemist. The flame usually rises about 5 cm above the burner tip, with 2.5 cm being the maximum temperature point. The portion of the flame used for atomic absorption spectrometry is specific as to what element is being analyzed, because different areas have different temperature and different elements require different energy to get excited. So you can use different portions of flame to excite different elements. So due to the formation of oxides, different elements achieve maximum absorbance and different distances above the burner. Flame atomization is the most reproducible of all the liquid sample introduction. However, it has many disadvantages. Oxides are easily formed, which lead to a reduced absorbance of sample, and flame atomization has a lower sensitivity than electrothermal atomization. Samples could be drained as waste and therefore have a low residence time, leading to low efficiency. Another disadvantage of flame atomic atomization is flame fluctuation, which can affect the absorbance of sample. This figure shows you a typical burner in, or you can say, flame of atomic absorption spectrometer instrument AI 1200. Its limits of detection. The limits of detection of flame atomic absorption spectroscopy is between 1 parts per million for transition metals to 10 parts per billion for alkali metals. Transition metals need more energy than alkali metals to excite their outer electrons, which is why the higher detection limit is needed. Because in case of transition metals, the electrons are shielded compared to alkali metals because of the bigger structure. Electrothermal atomization. So coming after the continuous, or you can say flame atomization, is electrothermal atomization. In this method of atomization, a sample goes through 3 phases to achieve atomization. 1. Drying of the sample at low temperature. 2. Ashing of the sample in a graphite furnace, followed by the third step, that is rapid temperature increase within the furnace, where the sample is converted to gaseous phase containing atoms from the sample. The absorbance is then measured above the heated surface where the sample was atomized. A graphite furnace is a graphite tube that is open at both ends with a sample port like a hole in the center for sample introduction. At both the ends, the furnace tube is covered with a graphite electrical contacts that serve to heat the sample. To keep the graphite furnace cool, water is circulated, and to prevent outside air from entering the atomization environment, an external stream of inert gas flows around the tube because outside air can destroy the tube. An internal stream of inert gas flows through the tube, carrying away vapor from the sample matrix. This shows a typical electrothermal atomizer, where a graphite tube which is open at both the ends, you have an electric current attached to it, an external gas flow, water coolant which keeps the graphite tube cool, and an internal gas flow with a sample platform. From one side, the source of radiation is given, and other side, the radiations obtained from the sample is fed to the spectrophotometer detector. The advantage of electrothermal atomizer is that they provide enhanced sensitivity. This is because the sample are atomized quickly and resides for longer period in atomization chamber compared to flame atomic absorption spectrum system, which means more of the sample is analyzed at once. This method has also been used for quantitative determination of elements based on signal peak height and area. In electrochemical atomization, smaller sample size is required. Also, because of the high temperature of the graphite furnace, minimum spectral interference are observed. But at the same time, this method is slow and time consuming in measurements because of the heating and cooling required of the system and a limited analytical range. Additionally, the maintenance and cost associated with electrothermal atomization is high because analyte and matrix may diffuse into the graphite tube, and over time the tube needs replacing. The advantages compared with the flame method are that it is highly sensitive, requires no pre-treatment of the specimen. It's capable of measuring a small amount of the specimen, but there are disadvantages also. Compared to the flame method, it takes longer time for measurements and has poor reproducibility because of intermittent measurements. The limits of detection for gas furnace atomic absorption, the range is between 100 parts per million to 1 parts per billion. This is because the matrix, even though removed, still plays a role in the scale of detection. Other atomization methods. A number of other methods are available to create the vapor of atoms from the sample to be analyzed by the atomic absorption spectrometer. In addition to the methods previously discussed, glow discharge atomization, hydride atomization, and cold vapor atomization are techniques that can be very useful for AAS. A glow discharge lamp used for atomization is a plasma formed by passage of electric current through a low pressure gas. In glow discharge atomization system, the sample is placed on a cathode. For the purpose of atomic absorption spectrometer, argon gas is used, which is ionized by an applied voltage on the cell. Here we see a schematic diagram of glow discharge atomization, where a sample is fed into the cathode and argon gas is pumped into the cathode surface in addition to the gas flow, having water cooling system to keep the cathode cool, which is attached to an optical absorption cell to catch the emission or radiations produced from the sample. Because of poor reproducibility, interferences, and poor detection limits of atomic absorption instruments for some elements, mostly metalloids, an alternative method has been developed, which includes hydride generation atomic absorption spectroscopy. This hydride generation atomic absorption spectroscopy is available via an option for many modern atomic absorption spectrometers. It only requires a hydride generation module. That means you can have an atomic absorption spectrometer instrument, you can have an additional module of hydride generation. Metalloids like selenium, arsenic, antimony, and tellurium are routinely analyzed by this technique, that is hydride generation technique. These elements can be analyzed by inductively coupled plasma, which is a powerful technique for these elements, but due to its higher cost, Its widespread use as compared to atomic absorption spectroscopy or HGAS is limited. Here we can see a hydride generation system attached to an atomic absorption spectrometer. A hydride generation system contains a reagent which is normally sodium borohydride and HCl, which are fed into the system by a peristaltic pump, a mixer into a mixing or reaction cell to produce the hydride, and which is attached to the then atomic absorption spectrometer. This is optional part which can be used when only you want to analyze the metalloids. In a hydride generating atomizer, samples are typically diluted and acidified before being mixed with a hydride source such as sodium borohydride. A volatile hydride containing the sample is generated and carried to the atomization chamber by an inert gas. During the atomization process, the sample is freed into atoms by heat, releasing the sample from the hydride compound. This can be done in a flame or furnace environment. Hydride generators are generally used for determination of heavy metals and other elements including lead, arsenic, tin, selenium, and bismuth. This method is useful for these elements because of its increased detection limit. Another technique, which is cold vapor atomization or reduction vaporization method. There is variability in sensitivity of the technique, and because of its relatively poor sensitivity for mercury, which is provided by the traditional flame atomic absorption, alternative atomic absorption technique is used. This cold vapor atomization reduction method has been effectively used for identification, or you can say determination, of mercury in samples. Due to extreme volatility of mercury, which results in significant vapor pressure, even at room temperature, furnace method for mercury are not recommended even. Therefore, the technique called cold vapor atomization absorption has been developed for mercury, and it has received great attention. The principle of this technique was first proposed by Polykhtov and co-workers in 1963. However, the most popular method is that usually credited to Hatch and Ott, published in 1968. Cold vapor atomization or reduction vaporization method. In this method, the mercury solution is acidified by using HCl, and mercury is reduced by reaction with stannous chloride in a vessel external to the atomic absorption instrument. The ground state mercury atoms are produced, which subsequently are transported by an air orient gas flow to an absorption cell installed in the atomic absorption instrument. This method provides sensitivities approximately 4 order of magnitude better than flame atomic absorption spectrometer. The US EPA has set a limit for mercury in drinking water of 2 microgram per liter or 2 parts per billion. The cold vapor technique is the only EPA approved method for determining mercury at this level. This shows us a cold vapor atomic fluorescence system wherein the sample and the reductant are fed in the pump. A mixing happens, and with inert gas it is taken into the gas liquid separator, followed by injection into the drying tube and to the atomic fluorescence spectrometer, and the result fed to the data system. The waste is collected. The right hand side you can see a schematic diagram or diagrammatic representation of the cold vapor atomic fluorescence spectrometer. For cold vapor atomization, the detection limit is less than 1 part per trillion. That means it is very high sensitive technique. Now let's summarize what we have learned in this module. In this module, we learned about the basic atomic absorption spectroscopy method, a refresh, or also learned our different methods of atomization, their working along with their advantages and disadvantages, applicability for use in detection of different elements, Techniques like continuous and discrete method, hydride generation method, cold vapor atomization, and glow discharge lamp were also covered. The advantage over flame over electrothermal was also discussed to make students understand the importance of method of selection, that for particular element which method should be used for atomization, the temperature obtained by using different mixtures of fuel and oxidants, and advantage of low and high temperature were also discussed. Thank you.